it's Miss Rachel, and today I have a story for you about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But before we dive into the story, I'm going to give you a little of our 3 points that we're going to be talking about today. Number 1 is that pride is a sin. Being prideful, being arrogant, being full of yourself is a sin. Number 2 is reading and obeying God's word is the only way that we, as believers, can stay on the right path that pleases God. And our last point is that obedience to God allows us to show other people God's powers in our lives. So those are our 3 points. I'll go over them more later, but I wanted to give you the quick rundown first. And I wanted to challenge you guys today. I know that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego is just another Bible story. But it's not. It's not just another kid story or Bible story that you've outgrown. But because as we go older and we continue our walk with God and we continue our relationship, the more we read these stories, the more the Holy Spirit reveals different ways that the story can apply in our lives. It'll show us things that we never really understood when we were younger. So that's why Bible stories are never just Bible stories, and that's why we still talk about the same parables and Noah's Ark and all that stuff, even when we're adults. So I just wanted you guys to remember that for a little bit. When I first heard this story, I think I was in preschool, and it was so hard for me to learn those names, but I don't know. It was always easy for me to remember like Shadrach, Meshach, but then Abednego was like weird because it didn't rhyme. So you could see me sitting there saying Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego in my seat, just trying to remember who it is. Now, I know this story is something that we all know, so I have a little quiz for you guys, like a little questionnaire, and I'm gonna need you to write your answers in the comment section of this video, whether Facebook or YouTube. So, I'm not going to give you the answers, but we will announce a winner next week. So, make sure you write those answers down. So, my first question is, what is the name of the country where King Nebuchadnezzar lived? Second question is, what country did Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego live in? Number 3. Who was the fourth young man that was friends with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? And the last question. I think this might be a hard one. What did the king do with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego after he realizes God could deliver them? Now, if you need to know those questions one more time, feel free to rewind, but I'm going to move on, and I can't wait to see your guys' answers. So let's talk about Daniel 3, which is the whole story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and where it starts. So King Nebuchadnezzar was very full of himself. So what he did was he built a very, very tall statue made out of gold. And he was like, you know what? I love this statue of myself so much that I'm going to make an official announcement. So he made an official announcement that whenever you heard music, whether it was somebody singing or whenever you heard music, singing, dancing isn't a type of music. Singing, playing a certain instrument, anything. You have to stop what you're doing and bow down to the statue. I don't know about that. And so, for a while, this is what everybody was doing. Everybody. When they heard it, instant, bow down to the statue. Like some astrologers came. And when they went to the king, and they were like, oh man, you're so great. Like, you're so amazing. But, you know, there's some guys who like don't agree with you and don't worship the same God as you. They're not bowing to your statue. They were tattletalers. They told on them. And those 3 guys were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? So then King Nebuchadnezzar was like, bring these guys to me. And they brought Meshach and Abednego to them. And he was like, guys, I understand that we don't worship the same God, but like, if you bow down to my statue, I'll forget all about it. And they were like, no, we don't want to. And so that made King Nebuchadnezzar so mad that there was a punishment for those who didn't bow and worship the statue. I should have mentioned that earlier. But yes, the punishment was that they had to be thrown into a blazing fiery furnace, right? And so that's probably also why people were bowing to the statue. Anyways, Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego were like, no, we don't want to. And the king was like, what? And so he was so angry that he made the furnace 7 times hotter than it was and took his strongest security guard to tie them up and then tossed them into the fire. But there's 4 people in there and they're not burning. The king went out there and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the one who serves the higher God, come out here. And I love that line because he acknowledges that God is the most high God. Yes, he acknowledges the fact that God is the most high God. And I think it's great. Sure, he had to do something bad to realize it, but at least he realized it. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out. And they didn't smell smoke or anything, and they were perfectly fine. After they came out perfectly fine, King Nebuchadnezzar was like, okay, praise be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, because he protected them, and they trusted in him, even when they defied the king's command. They will not worship any god other than their own God, and that, you know what? Because of them, anybody who says anything against our God, against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, will have a punishment. And he promoted them. He promoted them in Babylon. And that was it. Because of their faith in God and because they obeyed God, they showed how powerful our God was to King Nebuchadnezzar. And I think that's great. So that's the rundown of Daniel 3. And let's move on to pride is a sin. Do you guys remember when Daniel interpreted the king's dream? And then Daniel explained to the king that his dream was about how God had given him his power and strength and everything that he has and the kingdom and stuff like that, and it's represented by a gold head. But instead of being humble about it, the king was like, you're right, I am pretty great, so I'm gonna build a huge statue to myself, a really, really, really huge statue. Now, has anybody ever told you that you're good at something? It could be singing, that you're good at Bible quiz, you're good at memorizing things, you're really good at a sport, you're really good at a subject like math. When somebody compliments you and tells you how good you are at something, do you take ownership of it yourself? You're like, heck yeah, I'm good at this. Yeah, I know I'm good at this. Do you think about how it's oh yeah, it's because of me that I'm this good? Or God is the one who gave you your gift? That's a little bit of pride that we need to be careful of, okay? King Nebuchadnezzar forgot that it was God who gave him his gift. He gave him everything that he had. And he wanted to be recognized as a god. That's why he built that statue. And he wanted everybody to bow down to it. You don't want to be like King Nebuchadnezzar. Never forget where your talents come from. Always give glory to God above yourself. And that's what I want you guys to remember. Point 2 is obey God. So obeying God in little things comes in handy because when big things come along, we can also obey him. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego decided not to bow down to the statue. But they could have easily justified bowing down to the statue, They could have easily been like, well, we're gonna bow, but it's okay because God knows my heart, even though I'm doing this on the outside just to save myself, right? But that's not what they did because they wanted to show the power of God. They wanted to show their true loyalty to the Most High God. Now, have you ever been tempted to go along with what other people do because it's easier than doing what you wanted to do? Like making fun of somebody because other people were making fun of them, or making fun of a teacher because everybody else was making fun of them, cheating on a test because everyone else was, using bad words, acting differently at school than you do at home, at church. So I remember when I was in middle school, there was this girl who had back problems. She couldn't carry a backpack, right? And so she had some little like pull type backpack, but the thing is you're not allowed those in middle school because they take up too much space. And one time she accidentally tripped somebody and they got so mad at her, they started cursing her out in the hallway and everybody just walked by. And because I was too scared to stand up for her and it was easier for me to just keep walking, I kept walking. And you know, I still regret that a little bit to this day because nobody stood up for her and she was really, really nice. And maybe if I'd been a little braver, I could have been that person. So it's not always good to go with what other people are doing, you know? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego each followed God, right? But this was not the first time they obeyed God. They obeyed God all the time, you know? So when it came to obeying God by maybe like not telling a lie, it became easier and easier for them to obey. So that when something big happened, like their life was on the line, it was no problem because they had practiced being obedient. It might not be like a big thing to obey God in the little things, but it's like building a wall. When you start at the little things, it gets easier and easier to obey, and next thing you know, you have this huge wall. And suddenly it's all easy. So, we're gonna watch an obedient video real quick, and I'll be here when you guys come back after it.
Hey kids, have you ever tried to build a creation out of Legos? Maybe you're trying to build a car, but you didn't follow any of the instructions, because you were sure that you knew how to do it by yourself. That Lego creation probably turned out looking like a messy blob, and definitely not a car.
Well, today we're going to talk about how important it is to follow instructions.
We're going to learn 3 important things that you need to know to be obedient.
These important things come out of God's instructions, the Bible.
So here's how wise kids obey. Obey the first time.
Have you ever been told to do something? Instead of doing it right away, you waited and eventually forgot to do it at all?
Well, that's because you missed the first instruction on obedience. Obey the first time.
I will hurry without delay to obey your commands. So don't make people wait when they're asking you to do something. Do it right away.
Hang out with obedient kids. Did you know you start to act like the people you hang out with? So if you hang out with a kid that wears weird clothes, you'll probably start wearing weird clothes too.
That also means if you hang out with kids that disobey, then you'll start to disobey too. So that means we should hang out with kids that are good at obeying.
I'm a friend to anyone who fears you, anyone who obeys your commandments. So if your friends don't obey your parents and teachers, maybe it's time to find some new friends.
Never stop obeying. You don't just stop obeying once you're an adult. You still have to obey God and His instructions. Memory verse.
I will keep on obeying your instructions forever and ever. It's important to learn how to obey while we're young.
It will make things a lot easier when you're older. And if you learn how to obey now, you'll get better and better at it as you grow up.
So kids, next time you're building with Legos and you don't think you need the instructions, remember this lesson.
If you want to build it the right way, you need to follow the instructions.
And if you want to live the right way, you gotta follow God's instructions. The Bible.
Hey, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video. So we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to talk about one more point that I have for you, and then I'll be done. So final point is obeying God shows other people how strong and how powerful our God is in our life, right? It honors Him. Because of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's example of faith and obedience in those 2 things that happened, giving up the food and being thrown into the fiery furnace, King Nebuchadnezzar recognized how strong God was. Let me read a verse real quick that emphasizes that fact. So it's Daniel 3:28, and it says, Nebuchadnezzar said, Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants. They trusted in him and defied the king's commands, and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own. And then he went on to say, like, anybody who says anything about Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego is like, God will be punished. Therefore, I decree that the people of any nation or language who say anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be cut into pieces, their house is a rubble, for no other God can save in this way. He promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. They were rewarded for doing what God said, for doing that. Now, you may not get a reward from your friends or your parents or your teachers, but God does reward those who choose to honor him. In Proverbs 6:13, it says, Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. If you obey God in your everyday life, God will bless you. God will help you. I know you guys want to make the right choices, but we can't do that on our own. God is the one who's truly wise, and he knows what's best for us. So we should ask for God's help, and whatever he says, we should listen to him to make decisions that honor him. The more time that we spend talking to God and reading his word, we will start to make it both easy and hard decisions when we follow him. But it will be easy because we're obeying. Praying and reading helps us know what God wants from us. In case you missed any of today's lesson, I'm going to play a video for you guys to watch in order to review. But thank you guys for being here with me today. I hope you enjoyed today's lessons, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Hi boys and girls, this is Miss Carol with my daughter
Sophia, hi everyone.
What a powerful story we just heard about the fiery furnace and those three men that believe and trust in God. For today, we have a craft for you to you remember the powerful story that we just heard. So we are going to make a lantern, and we have two different ones. This one is with a cup, and this one is with a water bottle. So for this craft, you're gonna need a tray. If you don't have a tray, you can use a paper plate, because this craft is gonna be a little messy because we're gonna be using a lot of glue. You're also gonna need scissors, paintbrush, glue, and a little plastic container where you're gonna put some glue in there, a clear plastic cap like this one, a water bottle if you want to do it that way. You're also gonna need tissue paper, yellow and red, and for light up you need the tea lights. You're maybe just gonna need one, and a glow in the dark sticks. Sophia, which one you gonna do? The cup or the water bottle?
Water bottle.
Water bottle. So before I give this tray to Sophia, we are going to put some glue in the cup. Very good. When you are looking for your paintbrush, try to look a paintbrush like thick, like this one. That's going to help you to apply the glue. Okay, Sophia, we are going to share the glue, but here is your tray and here is your bottle.
Thank you, Mom.
You're welcome. I'm going to put these scissors over here. So I have a cup that I'm going to use. I'm going to use this one. Get the tissue paper and cut it in pieces. So like this. That's when you're going to use the scissors, so you're going to cut it. Something like that. And I have more over here, so I'm going to put it in the middle so Sophia and I can share that too. All right, Sophia, you can start now. First thing, with this kind of paintbrush, you're going to dip it in the glue.
Can I dip it in the glue?
Yes, you can start. And you're going to put the glue on the outside like this. Very good. And you're going to start putting the little pieces of paper. You also can put a little bit of water. I have water over here, so I'm going to put just a tiny bit to make the glue a little more loose. Something like this. There you go. Okay, you got it right here. And I'm gonna keep adding more paper. You can do like more than 2 layers or 1 layer, and then when you finish with this one, then you can do another layer right there. All right, and you're gonna keep working on it until you cover the whole cup, like I did.
And if
Yes, Sophia.
And when you're completely done, then let it cool for a little bit. Let it dry, so when you put the rest of the thing, it won't be too gluey.
So I'm going to show you. You will have something like this. And I put a big piece of paper. This one were little, like this one, and I use a bigger piece of paper to put it inside to make like the fire flames like this. So now that this one is done and dry, you can put the tea light inside over here. Of course, it's hard to see it because it's very bright, but you will enjoy it at night over there. So for that one, you can use the tea light. And for this one, for the bottle, you can use the glow in the dark sticks. Just put it inside. I put water over here because we are outside and it's very windy, and this one was moving around, but you don't need to put water inside. I just did it to keep it.
Because we're outside.
Yes, and it's very windy. So the wind was moving the bottle everywhere. So you break it, you put it there, and you can change it anytime. So this is it. I hope you like it, and thank you for watching. We miss you so much, and we hope to see you very soon. Please take care of yourself. Bye.
It's time for a Bible story. A long time ago in the land of Israel, there lived 3 young guys named Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Whoa, hold on, wait a minute. What are those names? Did you say their names were Sad Rat, Mean Hat, and a Bendy Goat?
No, not even close. Their names were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And they were some pretty solid dudes. They loved God with all their heart, and things were going pretty well for them. Until one day, all of that changed.
Wait, let me guess what happened. They were taken from their homeland by an invading army.
Well, actually, yeah, that's exactly what happened. Do you know the story already?
Whoa, really? Crazy. That was just a random guess. What are the odds of that, huh?
Well, you're right. Israel was invaded by the wicked King Nebuchadnezzar.
Whoa, that stinks. And double whoa, because the names in this story are crazy.
I know, right? King Nebuchadnezzar invaded their country and took a bunch of people captive, and then brought them back to his home country called Babylon.
Hold up. Okay. I know the names in this story are a little wonky, but you gotta be kidding me. He was from a place called Babyland? That sounds awesome. An entire country full of adorable babies? Actually, that doesn't sound awesome. I bet it smelled like a giant diaper. Ugh.
No, not Babyland. It was called Babylon, and I'm sure it smelled just fine.
Gotcha. So what happened when they got to Babylon?
Well, they were trying to adjust to where they live now. I mean, one day they're chilling at home in Israel, and the next day they're in a totally different country. They didn't know anybody there, they don't speak the language, and on top of all that, they were forced to work as slaves.
Yikes, that is pretty rough, man. I bet they were like so super scared. I mean, they're in a completely different country, they don't know anybody, they're completely on their own. Man, I would be totally freaked out.
Actually, they didn't freak out. They knew God was with them, so they kept on like they had before. Every day they would pray and worship God.
Hey, that's great to hear. Sounds like things could turn around, huh?
Well, things did change, but not really in the way that you might expect. One day, King Nebuchadnezzar decided to have a huge statue of himself built. He wanted it to be 90 feet tall and made out of gold.
Seriously, a 90-foot golden statue of himself? Man, what a waste of a statue. I'd rather have a 90-foot gold statue of something awesome, like a really fat hamster. Oh, or like a unicorn playing guitar.
I agree. Those would be pretty sweet. But No, he wanted it to be of himself. And once the statue was built, he ordered people from all around to come and see it. He had musicians set up all around the statue and gave the order that when they started to play, everyone would bow down and worship him.
Okay, that's a little weird. So what does this have to do with our three amigos exactly?
Well, that's where things get interesting. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were some of the people that were ordered to come and see the statue. But, as you can imagine, they weren't very interested in worshiping King Nebuchadnezzar. They only worshiped God.
So what happened?
Just like the king ordered, the band kicked in and everybody bowed down to the statue except for 3 people. You want to guess who?
Larry, Curly, and Moe.
Swing and a miss. It was actually Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And as you can imagine, the king was not very happy with them disobeying his orders. But he liked Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, so he gave them a second chance to change their minds and worship him. The band kicked in again, everybody else bowed down, but...
Let me guess, they didn't bow.
No sirree, Bob.
Yeesh, I bet he really did not like that.
No, he did not. King Nebuchadnezzar was furious that they had refused to worship him, but they held firm and told the king that they would only worship the one true God.
Oh boy, I bet they got punished pretty bad, huh? What'd they get, like 1,000,000 spankings?
No, much worse than that. The king's guards grabbed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and took them to a huge fiery furnace, a giant oven with flames blazing out all over it.
Good grief, that thing is no joke. It's gotta be like 1,000,000 degrees, or like a bazillion Celsius, or like 5 Kelvin.
Well, look at you, Mr. Science. And yes, it was very hot. The king decided to give them one more chance to bow down to him. And if they didn't, he was going to throw them into the fiery furnace.
Whoa, he was seriously gonna like kill him?
Straight up.
So what'd they do? I mean, did they just give in and bow down? I mean, listen, that would be totally understandable. I mean, look at that oven thing, man. They'd get roasted like marshmallows in there. That would be terrifying.
That's true. It was a pretty scary situation, but they trusted in God and they weren't afraid. They knew that God was more powerful than King Nebuchadnezzar, and if God was on their side, they didn't have to be afraid. So when the king said one last time to bow down, they refused.
Uh-oh, so did he throw him in the furnace?
Nope. Instead, the king ordered the furnace to be made 7 times hotter than it already was, and then throw them in.
What? How do you even do that? That's gotta be like as hot as the sun, or like an atomic bomb, or my new mixtape.
No. But it got so hot that when the guards opened the door, the heat was so strong that they were instantly killed.
Oh, look, the guards are dead. Now's your chance. Run for it, guys.
Well, there were other guards. Kind of an expendable resource back then.
Oh, that's kind of sad.
So another set of guards grabbed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, dragged them over to the furnace, and threw them inside. King Nebuchadnezzar and everybody else watched as they closed the door and waited. But what happened next? Nobody ever expected. There in the furnace, in those blazing hot flames, stood 4 men.
Wait, what? They didn't die? Like an instant, terrible death of burning and dying?
Nope. The guards and King Nebuchadnezzar could not believe their eyes. There were 4 figures standing in the flames, totally fine.
Hold up, wait a second. There were 4 people? I thought you said they threw in 3 people. You know, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's only 3.
True, but there was a 4th person in the furnace with them. It was Jesus.
What?
Yep, Jesus was with them in the fiery furnace and protected them from the flames. King Nebuchadnezzar told them to come out, and they walked out completely unharmed. Their clothes didn't even smell like smoke.
That is incredible. So that's why they weren't afraid of the king, huh? They trusted in God so much and knew that he would be with them when the times got tough.
Exactly. That day, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego showed King Nebuchadnezzar and everyone in Babylon that God was with them, and no matter what came their way, they didn't have to fear.
That is totally stinking awesome.
You bet. The end.